My father sent me a text message that made my blood run cold. Elizabeth, don't come to the wedding. You and your kids just make things awkward for everyone. After years of being the family scapegoat, I had a choice to make. But what I did next would change everything forever and leave my father begging for forgiveness. Should I have shown up anyway, or was walking away the revenge he never saw coming? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The notification buzzed on my phone at exactly 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I was sitting on my worn-out couch in my small apartment in Portland, Oregon, helping my 8-year-old daughter Maya with her math homework while my 6-year-old son Tyler played with his toy trucks on the carpet. The glow from my phone screen cut through the warm lamplight of our living room, and I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt in that moment. Then I read the message. Elizabeth, this is your father. Regarding Mitchell's wedding on November 15th, Diane and I have discussed it, and we think it's best if you don't attend. You and your kids just make things awkward for everyone. Mitchell agrees. We'll send you photos afterward. I stared at those words until they blurred. My father, Richard Jones, the man who raised me, who walked me to school on my first day of kindergarten, who taught me how to ride a bike, had just uninvited me to my own brother's wedding via text message. Not even a phone call. A text. Mom, you okay? Maya's voice snapped me back to reality. Her brown eyes, so much like mine, searched my face with concern far beyond her years. She'd learned to read my moods too well, this kid of mine. Growing up with just me after the divorce had made her perceptive. I'm fine, sweetie. I lied, forcing a smile. Just got a message from Grandpa about Uncle Mitchell's wedding. Are we going? Tyler wants to wear his dinosaur tie. She grinned, and my heart cracked a little more. We'll see, baby. Let's finish your homework first. But I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to that message, dissecting every word like a coroner examining a body. You and your kids just make things awkward. What did that even mean? Awkward for whom? For my father and his second wife, Diane? For my golden child brother, Mitchell, who could do no wrong? For the extended family who'd watched me become the black sheep without ever asking why? The truth was, I knew exactly what it meant. It meant that my existence as a divorced single mother of two didn't fit the perfect picture my father wanted to paint. It meant that Diane, who married my father 3 years after my mother died, had never warmed to me or my children. It meant that Mitchell, who was getting married to a woman from a wealthy family in Seattle, didn't want his struggling older sister and her kids bringing down the vibe at his upscale vineyard wedding. After Maya and Tyler were finally asleep, I sat in my dark kitchen with a cup of cold coffee, rereading that message over and over. 27 words. That's all it took to summarize my worth to my father. 27 words to erase 34 years of being his daughter. My phone rang. It was my best friend Rachel. I texted her a screenshot of my father's message. Elizabeth Marie Jones, do not tell me you're sitting there crying over that pathetic excuse for a father, Rachel said before I could even say hello. Her voice was fierce, protective. We'd been friends since college, and she'd witnessed every family drama, every disappointment, every time I'd bent over backward trying to earn my father's approval. I'm not crying, I said, wiping my eyes. Liar. Listen to me. You don't need them. You've built a beautiful life with those kids, and you did it without their help. Remember when Maya was in the hospital last year with pneumonia? Did your father visit once? Did Mitchell send a card? No. But you know who was there? Me, your coworkers, your neighbor Mrs. Chen, your real family. She was right, of course. Rachel was always right, but that didn't make the rejection hurt any less. What should I do? I asked, my voice small. What do you want to do? That's the real question. I thought about it. What did I want? Did I want to show up at that wedding anyway? Force my father to face what he'd done? Did I want to send a scathing reply, finally unleashing years of swallowed hurt? Did I want to beg him to reconsider, prove once again that I was willing to humiliate myself for scraps of his affection? Or did I want something else entirely? I need to think, I told Rachel. Take your time. But Elizabeth, whatever you decide, I've got your back. Always. After we hung up, I pulled out an old shoebox from the top of my closet. Inside were photos from my childhood, my mother and me baking cookies, my father teaching me to fish, family vacations before everything fell apart. There was a photo from my high school graduation where my father's arm was around my shoulders, his face beaming with pride. That man felt like a stranger now. Everything changed when I got pregnant at 23. I'd been dating Jacob for 2 years, we were engaged, and we'd decided to start our family a little earlier than planned. But my father was furious. Not because I was having a baby, but because Jacob came from a working-class background. He was a mechanic, not a lawyer or doctor. My father called it throwing away my potential. He refused to attend our modest wedding. Then Jacob and I divorced when Tyler was 2. It was amicable, we'd simply married too young and grown apart. But to my father, it was proof that he'd been right all along. I was a failure, a disappointment, an embarrassment. Mitchell, meanwhile, had followed the perfect path. Graduated top of his class from law school, joined a prestigious firm in Seattle. Now he was marrying Amanda Hartwell, whose family owned half the commercial real estate in Washington state. My father couldn't have been prouder. The contrast was stark, and my father never let me forget it. Every family gathering became a showcase for Mitchell's achievements and a reminder of my shortcomings. Diane made it worse, constantly suggesting I should try harder or think about the children's future, while simultaneously making it clear we weren't really welcome in their lives. But this being uninvited to my brother's wedding, this was a new low. I looked at my phone again. Should I respond? Part of me wanted to call him, to ask him how he could do this. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger over the years of raising my kids alone, of building a career as a dental hygienist, of creating a life that was modest but full of love, that part told me I deserved better than begging for crumbs. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to respond to my father's text. Not yet. Instead, I was going to take control of my own narrative. I was going to show all of them, that Elizabeth Jones and her children were worth so much more than they'd ever recognized. I just had to figure out how. As I finally climbed into bed that night, exhausted and emotionally drained, one thought kept circling in my mind. If they wanted me gone, I'd give them exactly what they asked for. But on my terms, not theirs. The wedding was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to decide what kind of daughter, what kind of person, I wanted to be. 3 weeks to either accept my role as the family disappointment or to finally, definitively walk away. I fell asleep that night, not with sadness, but with something unexpected: determination. My father had drawn a line in the sand. Now it was my turn to respond. And when I did, nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, I woke up with clarity I hadn't felt in years. While Maya and Tyler ate their cereal, I opened my laptop and started digging. If my family wanted to erase me, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. Mitchell's wedding website was public, and it was everything I expected: elegant, expensive, and excessive. The venue was Cascade Ridge Vineyard, a 5-star estate outside Seattle with a starting package of $40,000. The guest list hovered around 200 people. There were engagement photos of Mitchell and Amanda looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine, all perfect smiles and designer clothes. What caught my attention was the wedding party list. Mitchell had 6 groomsmen, all guys from his law firm and college. Amanda had 6 bridesmaids, including our cousin Sarah, who I'd grown up with. Sarah, who used to spend summers at our house before Mom died. Sarah, who apparently had no problem being in a wedding I'd been banned from. I picked up my phone and called her. "Elizabeth!" "Oh my God, I was going to call you." Sarah's voice was nervous, guilt already bleeding through. "Were you? Before or after the wedding?" Silence. Then, "You heard. Dad sent me a text. Very warm, very personal. Told me not to come because my kids and I make things awkward." I kept my voice steady. "Did you know about this, Sarah?" "Liz, it's complicated. Diane has been planning this wedding with Amanda's mother for months, and she's been really particular about the guest list. She said something about keeping it intimate and elegant, and you know how she is about me and my kids not fitting her vision of elegance?" I finished. Sarah sighed. "It's not like that. Amanda's family is really traditional and wealthy, and Diane wanted everything to be perfect. Mitchell just went along with it to keep the peace." He feels bad. He really does. Bad enough to stand up for his sister? Bad enough to tell his fiancée and our stepmother that uninviting family via text is cruel? Another pause. Elizabeth, I know. You're hurt. But maybe it's for the best? These events are always tense with you there, and with the kids running around. My children are 8 and 6 years old. They're well-behaved kids. I didn't mean it like that. I just think maybe this is a chance for everyone to enjoy the day without any drama. There it was. Drama. As if my existence was inherently dramatic. As if being a divorced single mother was a personality flaw rather than a life circumstance. Thanks for clearing that up, Sarah. Enjoy the wedding. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not with sadness anymore. With anger. Pure, clean anger that felt almost liberating. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. That afternoon, I called Mitchell directly. He answered on the 4th ring. Liz. Hey. Listen. About the wedding. Did you tell Dad to uninvite me, or was that all Diane's doing? It's not that simple. Amanda's parents are paying for most of the wedding, and they have certain expectations about. Just answer the question, Mitchell. Did you tell our father that your sister and her children make things awkward? He exhaled loudly. Diane brought it up first. She said it would be easier without kids at the reception, and Amanda agreed because her family is doing this adults-only thing. Then Dad mentioned that it might be better if you skipped it entirely, and I didn't fight it. I'm sorry, Liz, but it's my wedding day, and I just want everything to go smoothly. Everything goes smoothly when I'm not around. Is that what you're saying? You're twisting my words. No, Mitchell. I'm finally hearing them clearly. You didn't fight for me. You never have. Every time Dad compared us, every time Diane made a snide comment about my life choices, you stayed silent. You've been staying silent for 11 years, and now you can't even stand up for me at your own wedding. That's not fair. I've always been there for you. Name one time. Name one time in the past decade when you stood up for me. Silence stretched between us. I could hear his expensive Seattle apartment in the background, the coffee machine, traffic far below, Amanda talking to someone in another room. I helped you move into your apartment, he finally said, weakly. You helped me move because Rachel called you and guilt-tripped you into driving down from Seattle. And you left after 2 hours. Elizabeth, I don't want to fight. If you want to come to the wedding, you can come. I'll talk to Dad and Diane. Don't bother. I wouldn't come now if you paid me. But I need you to understand something, Mitchell. This isn't about the wedding anymore. This is about you choosing comfort over family. And you'll have to live with that choice. I hung up. My heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I'd never spoken to Mitchell like that before. I'd never spoken to anyone in my family like that before. It felt incredible. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat down with a notebook and started making lists. Rachel came over with wine and Thai food, and together we mapped out exactly what I needed to do. First question, Rachel said, pouring us both generous glasses. Do you want revenge, or do you want peace? Can I have both? Probably. But you need to figure out what your end goal is. Do you want your father to apologize? Do you want to hurt him the way he hurt you? Do you want to just walk away and build a life without them? I thought about it, twirling my wine glass. I want them to see what they lost. I want my father to realize that pushing me away was the worst mistake he ever made, and I want to do it in a way that he can't ignore or minimize. Rachel grinned. Now we're talking. So, what's the plan? That night, we came up with 3 possible approaches. Each one had risks, each one had potential payoffs. But they all had one thing in common. They would force my family to confront exactly what they'd done. Option 1. Show up at the wedding anyway with Maya and Tyler, dressed to kill, and force my father to either make a scene or pretend nothing was wrong. Option 2. Write a letter to my father and send copies to every family member, laying out years of mistreatment and asking them to take sides. Option 3. Something bigger. Something that would make a statement not just to my family, but to myself about the life I wanted to build going forward. What's option 3? Rachel asked. I smiled. an idea forming that felt both terrifying and absolutely right. I'm not sure yet, but I'll know it when I see it. That night, lying in bed, I realized something important. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't thinking about what my father wanted or what would make him proud. I was thinking about what I wanted, what would make me proud. The wedding was 2.5 weeks away. 2.5 weeks to decide how Elizabeth Jones was going to rewrite her story. And this time, I was going to make it count. 3 days after my conversation with Mitchell, something unexpected happened. I was at work, cleaning instruments between patients, when my phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender was someone I hadn't heard from in over 5 years. My Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. Linda had moved to Arizona shortly after Mom died, and we'd lost touch over the years. My father never liked her much, said she was too opinionated and stirred up trouble. Looking back, I realized that meant she was willing to call him out on his nonsense. The email's subject line read, "We need to talk about the wedding." My stomach dropped. Has the family drama already spread that far? I opened it during my lunch break. Elizabeth, Sarah called me yesterday and told me what Richard did. I'm absolutely disgusted. Your mother would be horrified. I need you to call me as soon as possible. There's something you should know about your father and this wedding that changes everything. My number is still the same. Love, Aunt Linda. I stepped outside into the crisp October air and dialed her number. She answered immediately. Elizabeth, honey. I've been waiting for your call. Her voice was warm, familiar in a way that made my throat tight. She sounded like my mother. Aunt Linda. It's been too long. It has, and that's partially my fault. I shouldn't have let Richard push me out of your life, but that's a conversation for another time. Right now, I need to tell you something about Mitchell's wedding, and you're not going to like it. I braced myself. What is it? Your father has been telling people, family members, old friends of your mother's, that you chose not to attend the wedding. He's saying you're too busy with work and that you felt it would be too difficult to travel with the kids. He's painting himself as the understanding father, respecting your decision. Rage flared in my chest, hot and immediate. That's a complete lie. I know it is. Sarah told me the truth, and she's feeling terrible about being part of this. But there's more, Elizabeth. Your grandmother, your mother's mother, she's been asking about you. She wanted to see you and the kids at the wedding. She's 91 now, and she doesn't travel anymore, so Mitchell's wedding was supposed to be this big family reunion. She's been looking forward to seeing her great-grandchildren. I felt like I'd been punched. Grandma Rose. I hadn't seen her in 3 years because she lived in a retirement home in Sacramento, and with my work schedule and the kids, making that trip was nearly impossible. But I'd called her every few weeks, sent her photos, made sure she knew we were thinking of her. Does she know I'm not coming? I asked quietly. No. Richard told her you'd be there. He said you were bringing the children, and that you were excited to see everyone. He lied to a 91-year-old woman about her only granddaughter, Elizabeth. He lied to my mother. The betrayal went deeper than I thought possible. It was one thing to exclude me, but to lie about it? To make me look like the bad guy who couldn't be bothered to attend? To deceive my elderly grandmother who might not have many family gatherings left? Why would he do that? My voice cracked. Because he's a coward. He doesn't want anyone to know that he uninvited his own daughter. He wants to look like the perfect father with the perfect family at his perfect son's perfect wedding. You mess up that picture, honey. Not because of anything you've done, but because your life isn't Instagram perfect, and Richard can't handle that. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Well, I have some thoughts on that, Linda said, and I could hear the steel in her voice. First, you need to tell Grandma Rose the truth. She deserves to know. Second, you need to decide if you're going to let Richard control this narrative. And third, you need to know that you're not alone. I'm on your side, and so is your Uncle Tom, and so are about a dozen other people who loved your mother and saw right through Richard's act. Something shifted in me then. This wasn't just about me and my hurt feelings anymore. This was about my grandmother, who'd been deceived. This was about my mother's family, who'd been fed lies. This was about the truth. I need to call Grandma Rose, I said. I think that's wise. And Elizabeth? Whatever you decide to do about this wedding, I've got your back. Your mother would have been so proud of the woman you've become, and the mother you are. Don't let Richard make you forget that. After we hung up, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to compose myself before going back to work. My lunch break was almost over, but I needed just a few more minutes to process everything. That evening, after Maya and Tyler were asleep, I called Grandma Rose. Her caregiver answered and put her on. Elizabeth. Oh, sweetheart. I was hoping you'd call. I can't wait to see you and those babies at Mitchell's wedding. It's been far too long. My heart shattered. Grandma, I need to tell you something, and it's not easy. Over the next 30 minutes, I explained everything. The text from Dad, Mitchell's silence, Diane's role in it all. I tried to keep my voice steady, tried not to cry, but tears came anyway. Grandma Rose was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "That man is not the son I raised your mother to marry. She deserved better, and so do you. Elizabeth, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Yes, Grandma, you are worth 10 of your brother, and 100 of that woman Richard married. You've raised 2 beautiful children on your own, you've built a career, and you've done it all with grace. Your mother sees you, baby girl, and she's proud. I'm proud. And if Richard can't see what a gift you are, that's his loss, not yours." I sobbed then, really sobbed, for the first time since receiving that text. Not because I was sad, but because someone finally saw me. Someone finally acknowledged what I'd been through. Thank you, Grandma. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call your father tomorrow and tell him exactly what I think of his behavior. And you're going to do whatever feels right to you, without guilt. If you want to go to that wedding and hold your head high, you go. If you want to stay home and take your babies to the zoo instead, you do that. Either way, you live your life for you and those children, not for Richard's approval. After we hung up, I felt different, lighter. The shame I'd been carrying for years, shame about my divorce, shame about not living up to my father's expectations, shame about not being Mitchell, it started to lift. I pulled out my notebook and looked at the 3 options Rachel and I had brainstormed. None of them felt quite right anymore. Because now I knew something I hadn't known before. I wasn't alone. And I didn't need revenge. I needed liberation. The wedding was 11 days away. 11 days to craft a response that would be true to who I was and who I wanted to be. Not the daughter Richard tried to hide. Not the sister Mitchell dismissed. But Elizabeth Jones, mother, survivor, and woman who'd had enough. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I never called in sick. I was the employee who showed up with a cold, who covered other people's shifts, who prided myself on reliability. But today, I needed time to think, and more importantly, to act. After dropping Maya and Tyler at school, I drove to a coffee shop across town, somewhere I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. I ordered a large latte, opened my laptop, and started writing. Not an angry letter, not a plea for understanding, but something else entirely, a timeline. Every significant moment from the past 11 years where my father had chosen Diane over me, where Mitchell had stayed silent, where I'd been made to feel less than. I documented it all with dates, specific incidents, exact words when I could. Remember them. The Thanksgiving when Diane served everyone, except making me wait until last, then commenting there might not be enough turkey. The Christmas when Mitchell announced his engagement and Dad toasted finally having something to be truly proud of. The time Maya's school play conflicted with Mitchell's law firm dinner, and Dad said I was being selfish for expecting him to choose an elementary school performance. Tyler's 6th birthday party that no one from my father's side attended, even though I'd sent invitations weeks in advance. Seeing it all written down was both painful and clarifying. This wasn't about one text message. This was about a pattern of exclusion and dismissal that had been building for over a decade. By noon, I had 15 pages. By 2 o'clock, I'd edited it down to 8. By 3, when I needed to pick up the kids, I had a clear, concise document that told the truth without embellishment or melodrama. Just facts. That night, Rachel came over after. The kids were asleep. I showed her what I'd written. She read it in silence, her expression growing darker with each page. When she finished, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Liz, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. Why didn't you tell me half of this stuff? Because I normalized it. I told myself it wasn't that serious, that I was being too sensitive, that family is complicated. But it's not complicated. It's just cruel. So, what are you going to do with this? I took a deep breath. I'm going to send it to every single person who's been invited to that wedding. Not as an attack, but as my truth. My father wants to pretend I chose not to come? Fine. But everyone gets to know why I'm really not there. Rachel's eyes widened. That's nuclear, Liz. You know that, right? That's going to blow up the entire wedding. Good. Maybe it should blow up. Maybe people should know what kind of man my father really is. Not the successful businessman with the perfect family. The man who lies to his 91-year-old mother-in-law. The man who invites his grandchildren to a family event via text message. Okay, but think about the fallout. Mitchell's marriage starts with this drama. Your cousin, Sarah, other family members, they're all going to be caught in the middle. And your father, he's not going to take this lying down. He'll fight back. Let him fight. I'm done protecting his image at the expense of my dignity. Rachel studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right. If you're sure this is what you want, I'm with you. But we do it smart, not emotional. We make sure this is airtight so he can't twist it or make you look unstable. Over the next 3 hours, Rachel and I refined my document. We removed anything that could be seen as opinion or interpretation and stuck purely to verifiable facts. We added screenshots of text messages, including the original uninvitation. We included dates, locations, and witnesses where possible. We need a subject line, Rachel said. Something that makes people actually open this instead of deleting it. I thought about it. How about the truth about why I won't be at Mitchell's wedding? Perfect, honest, straightforward, impossible to ignore. When are you sending it? The morning of the wedding. That way Dad can't do damage control beforehand, can't call people and spin his version first. They'll all get it at the same time, right before they're supposed to show up and celebrate. Rachel whistled low. You're not messing around. I'm done messing around. I've spent 11 years trying to be small enough, quiet enough, perfect enough to earn their love. It didn't work. So now I'm going to be honest instead. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Was I really going to do this? Was I prepared for the consequences? Mitchell would hate me. Dad might never speak to me again. Half the family would probably take his side. Rachel must have seen the uncertainty on my face. Second, thoughts? Maybe. I don't know. Part of me wonders if I should just let it go. Move on. Not give them the satisfaction of knowing they hurt me. That's also a valid choice. This isn't about revenge, Liz. It's about what you need to heal and move forward. If silence and distance feel right, do that. If speaking your truth feels right, do that. But whatever you choose it for you, not for them. I looked at my laptop screen, at the document that held years of pain distilled into 8 pages. Then I looked at the photos on my wall, Maya and Tyler at the beach last summer, laughing and covered in sand. Maya's school art project, a family tree where she'd drawn me at the center with her and Tyler and written, "My mom is the best in purple crayon." Tyler's list of things I love about Mom that he'd made for Mother's Day, which included, she gives good hugs and she never gives up. My kids didn't need a grandfather who was ashamed of them. They didn't need an uncle who couldn't stand up for them. They needed a mother who modeled self-respect and boundary setting. They needed to see that you don't accept mistreatment, even from family. I'm doing it, I said firmly. Not to hurt Mitchell or ruin his wedding. But because my story deserves to be told, and I'm the only one who can tell it. Rachel squeezed my hand. Then let's make sure it's bulletproof. The next week I crawled by. I went to work, took care of my kids, and acted like everything was normal. But every night after Maya and Tyler were asleep, I refined my email. I fact-checked every detail. I read and reread it until I could recite it from memory. 3 days before the wedding, Grandma Rose called me. True to her word, she'd confronted my father. The conversation hadn't gone well. He denied everything at first, she told me, her voice shaking with anger. Said you'd misunderstood the text, that he never meant to uninvite you. I read him the exact words you sent me. Then he changed his story, said, it was for the best, that your children would be disruptive. That Diane and Mitchell agreed. I told him he was a liar and a coward, and that his behavior would have broken your mother's heart. What did he say to that? He hung up on me. His own mother-in-law. He hung up on me. She paused. Elizabeth, whatever you're planning to do, do it. That man needs to face consequences for once in his life. 2 days before the wedding, Mitchell texted me. Dad said, Grandma Rose called him screaming. What did you tell her? Can we please just get through my wedding without drama? I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say to him. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my email draft, making tiny edits, then changing them back. At 2 a.m., I finally closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything will change. Tomorrow, I would press send on an email that would detonate in the middle of Mitchell's perfect wedding day. Tomorrow, I would stop being the quiet, accommodating daughter who absorbed everyone's cruelty with a smile. Tomorrow, I will become someone new, and I couldn't wait. November 15th, the wedding day. I woke up at 6 a.m. to Maya climbing into my bed. Mom, are you sad we're not going to Uncle Mitchell's wedding? She asked, her small face serious. I pulled her close. No, baby. I'm not sad. Actually, I think we should do something special today instead. What do you think about going to the aquarium? Her eyes lit up. Really? Can Tyler come too? Of course. Go wake up your brother and tell him to get ready. We're going on an adventure. As Maya ran off, squealing with excitement, I reached for my phone. The email was queued up, ready to send. According to Mitchell's wedding website, the ceremony started at 3 p.m. I'd scheduled the email to go out at 2 p.m. late enough that people would be getting ready, early enough that they'd all see it before the ceremony began. My finger hovered over the send button. This was it. The point of no return. Once I pressed this, there would be no taking it back, no smoothing it over, no pretending everything was fine. I pressed send. The email whooshed into the void, carrying my truth to 197 recipients. Everyone on Mitchell's guest list. Family members, friends, colleagues, Amanda's family. All of them would know. I made breakfast for the kids' pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for Tyler, chocolate chips for Maya, and tried to act normal. We loaded into my 15-year-old Honda and headed toward the Portland Aquarium. The kids chattered excitedly in the back seat while I drove, my phone sitting in my purse, silent for now. It was 10:47 a.m. In just over 3 hours, all hell was going to break loose. We spent the morning watching jellyfish drift like ghosts through illuminated tanks. Tyler pressed his nose against the glass of the shark exhibit while Maya sketched the sea turtles in her notebook. For a few hours, I almost forgot about the email. I almost forgot about the wedding. I almost forgot about everything except being present with my children. Then, at exactly 2:03 p.m., my phone started buzzing. Rachel. Holy shit. You actually did it, Aunt Linda. Elizabeth. I just read your email. I'm so proud of you. Your mother would be too. Texts, calls, voicemails, piling up faster than I could read them. I stepped away from the kids, who were watching a penguin feeding, and found a quiet corner. My phone rang. Mitchell. I let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. Again, I ignored it. The third time, I answered. What the hell did you do? His voice was shaking with fury. Elizabeth, what the actual hell is wrong with you? Today? You did this today? I told the truth, I said calmly. That's all I did. I told people why I'm not at your wedding. You ruined everything. Amanda's crying, her mother is furious, guests are calling, asking if they should still come. Dad is, he's Mitchell's voice, broke. Why would you do this to me? On my wedding day? This isn't about you, Mitchell. This is about 11 years of being treated like I don't matter. This is about Dad lying to Grandma Rose. This is about being uninvited to my own brother's wedding via text message. Did you really think I was just going to accept that quietly? You're selfish. You're bitter and jealous and you can't stand seeing me happy. I'm done, Mitchell. I'm done being your family's punching bag. Enjoy your wedding. I hope it's everything you dreamed of. I hung up. My hands were trembling, but I felt strangely calm. Powerful, even. For the first time in my adult life, I hadn't backed down. I hadn't apologized. I hadn't made myself small. The phone rang again. Dad, this time. I stared at his name on the screen for a long moment before answering. Elizabeth. His voice was ice cold. I don't know what you hoped to accomplish with that stunt, but all you've done is prove exactly why we didn't want you there. You're vindictive, you're dramatic, and you've embarrassed this entire family. No, Dad, you embarrassed yourself. I just made sure everyone could see it. You've burned every bridge. You understand that? Mitchell will never forgive you. I will never forgive you. You're not welcome in this family anymore. I haven't been welcome for 11 years. Dad. You just made it official. But here's the thing, I don't need your forgiveness. I don't need Mitchell's. I don't need a family that treats me like a shameful secret. My kids and I are better off without you. Those kids, he started, his voice rising, are none of your concern. You made that clear when you uninvited them to a family wedding. Don't ever contact me again. I ended the call and immediately blocked his number. Then I blocked Mitchell's, then Diane's. One by one, I went through my contacts and removed anyone who'd been complicit in years of mistreatment. But not everyone's response was negative. As I scrolled through the messages, I found support from unexpected places. Uncle Tom, Mom's brother, Elizabeth. Your email was brave and honest. Your father has always been difficult, but this crossed a line. You have my full support. 3 of my cousins sent similar messages. 2 of Mitchell's law school friends, people I'd met only once or twice, wrote to say they were appalled by Dad's behavior. Even Amanda's aunt, someone I'd never met, sent a message. What your father did was inexcusable. I'm so sorry you were treated this way. The most surprising message came from Sarah, my bridesmaid cousin. Liz, I'm at the venue and it's chaos. Half the guests are talking about your email. Amanda's mother is having a meltdown. Your dad is making excuses, but nobody's buying it. I should have stood up for you weeks ago. I'm sorry I didn't. For what it's worth, I'm leaving. I can't celebrate a wedding that was built on excluding you. I stared at that message, tears blurring my vision. Sarah was leaving. She was actually leaving Mitchell's wedding because of what Dad had done to me. 10 minutes later, Aunt Linda called. I'm not going either. Neither is Tom. Neither are your cousins Jennifer and Mark. We're all leaving. This wedding can happen without us. You don't have to do that, I started. Yes, we do. Your father's behavior was unacceptable, and Mitchell's silence was just as bad. They need to understand there are consequences. Real consequences. By 3 p.m., when Mitchell's ceremony was supposed to start, I'd received 43 messages of support and learned that at least 15 guests had walked out. The wedding was still happening, but it was happening under a cloud of scandal and shame that my father could never have anticipated. Mom, can we see the octopus again? Tyler tugged at my sleeve, pulling me back to the present. I looked at my son's innocent face, his eyes bright with wonder at the world around him. He had no idea what was happening 3 hours north in Seattle. He had no idea his mother had just detonated a bomb in the middle of his uncle's wedding. He was just a 6-year-old boy who wanted to see an octopus. Of course, buddy. Let's go. I took his hand, and Maya's, and we walked back through the aquarium's blue-lit corridors. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, but I ignored it. Whatever was happening at that wedding, whatever chaos I'd unleashed, it could wait. Right now, I had my children, I had my truth, and I had my freedom. And for the first time in 11 years, that was enough. The days following the wedding were surreal. I kept waiting to feel guilty, to regret what I'd done, to wish I could take it back. But that feeling never came. Instead, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. Rachel stopped by Monday evening with pizza and ice cream. We sat on my couch while the kids played in their room, and she filled me in on everything I'd missed. So, apparently, the ceremony started almost an hour late because they had to scramble when people started leaving, Rachel said, scrolling through her phone. My friend, Jessica's cousin, was there. She sent me updates all night. The vibe was super awkward. Amanda looked like she'd been crying. Your dad gave this toast where he tried to address the elephant in the room but just made it worse. What did he say? Something about family disagreements and how sometimes distance is necessary for everyone's well-being. Then he said that today was about celebrating Mitchell and Amanda, not dwelling on negativity. People were not impressed. Jessica's cousin said you could hear people whispering throughout the whole speech. I shook my head. Even in the middle of a scandal he created, Dad couldn't admit fault. He had to spin it, make it sound like a mutual decision, a reasonable boundary, instead of what it really was, cruelty. There's more, Rachel continued. Diane apparently had a full Perks meltdown in the bridal suite. She was screaming at your dad, blaming him for ruining Mitchell's day. Several guests heard it. Diane was mad at him? That surprised me. Diane had been one of the main architects of my exclusion. She was mad that he got caught. There's a difference. She wanted you gone, but she wanted it to be quiet and easy. Your email made it public and messy, and now she has to deal with the social consequences. Over the next week, more details trickled in. Amanda's parents were furious not at me, but at my father for creating a situation that tarnished their daughter's wedding. Several of Mitchell's law firm colleagues reached out to me privately, expressing support and admitting they'd always found my father's behavior toward me troubling. Two of Mom's old friends called to say they wished they'd spoken up sooner. The most surprising call came from Amanda herself, 10 days after the wedding. I almost didn't answer when I saw the unfamiliar Seattle number. Elizabeth? This is Amanda. Mitchell's wife now. Her voice was tentative, nervous. Hi, Amanda. I kept my tone neutral. I had no idea what she wanted. I'm calling because look, this is awkward, but I need to say something. I didn't know the full story about what your father did until your email. Mitchell had told me there was tension, that you'd had a falling out, but he made it sound like it was mutual. He never told me your dad uninvited you via text. He never told me about the lies to your grandmother. Okay, I said, unsure where this was going. I come from a big family. I have 3 sisters. If my father treated one of them the way Richard treated you, and my husband-to-be went along with it, I don't know if I could have married him. I'm not saying what you did was easy to deal with on my wedding day, but I understand why you did it. And I'm sorry I didn't ask more questions before agreeing to an adults-only reception. I sat down, stunned. Amanda? I thank you. That means more than you know. Mitchell is still angry. He thinks you ruined our day. But honestly, Elizabeth, your father ruined it by putting us in that position in the first place. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of family I married into and what that means for when we have kids someday. I don't want my children growing up thinking it's okay to exclude family members based on whose life looks better on paper. Have you told Mitchell this? I've tried. He's defensive. He sees standing up to his father as betrayal. But I'm working on him. I think eventually he'll come around. I just wanted you to know that not everyone in this family thinks you were wrong. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment, processing. Amanda got it. A woman I barely knew understood in a way my own brother never had. 2 weeks post-wedding, Diane tried to reach me through Facebook Messenger. I'd blocked her phone number, but apparently she'd found another way. The message was long, rambling, and full of non-apology apologies. Elizabeth, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Your father and I never meant to hurt you. We just thought it would be easier for everyone if the wedding was adults only, and with your complicated situation as a single mother, we didn't want you to feel pressured to find childcare. We were trying to be considerate. I'm sorry if you took it the wrong way. Maybe we can move past this and rebuild our relationship? I read it 3 times, amazed at the mental gymnastics required to frame abandonment as consideration. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to someone who couldn't even admit what they'd actually done. Instead, I deleted the message and spent the afternoon at the park with Maya and Tyler. We fed ducks, played on the swings, and ate ice cream even though it was November and cold. Maya asked me why I seemed so happy lately. I feel free, baby, I told her honestly. Sometimes you have to let go of people who don't treat you well, even if they're family. It's scary, but it's also really freeing. She thought about this seriously. Like when I stopped being friends with Melissa because she was mean to everyone? Exactly like that. You're a smart kid. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, an actual handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. The return address was my father's house. My first instinct was to throw it away unopened, but curiosity won. I waited until the kids were in bed, poured myself a glass of wine, and opened it. The letter was from my father. His handwriting was still the same, precise, controlled, the letters perfectly formed like everything else in his life had to be. Elizabeth, I'm writing this letter because I know you've blocked my calls. I want you to understand that what happened at Mitchell's wedding was unfortunate, but largely avoidable had you chosen to handle things privately. Your email embarrassed me, your brother, and our entire family. It showed a shocking lack of maturity and consideration. However, I am willing to put this behind us if you issue a formal apology to Mitchell, Amanda, Diane, and myself. If you do this, we can work toward rebuilding trust and reestablishing your place in this family. The choice is yours. Dad. I read the letter twice, then once more, looking for any hint of self-awareness, any acknowledgement of his own actions, any shred of genuine remorse. There was none. He wanted an apology from me. He wanted me to beg my way back into a family that had never truly wanted me there. I walked to my kitchen, turned on the stove, and held the letter over the flame. I watched the edges curl and blacken, and watched my father's perfect handwriting disappear into ash. When there was nothing left but a small corner of paper, I dropped it in the sink and washed it down the drain. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Rachel. Dad sent a letter demanding an apology. I burned it. Want to come over and celebrate? Her response was immediate. Hell yes. Bringing champagne. That night, Rachel and I toasted to freedom, to chosen family, and to the courage it takes to walk away from people who don't deserve you. We laughed about how ridiculous my father's letter was, how delusional someone had to be to create a crisis and then demand apologies from the victim. So what now? Rachel asked. What's next for Elizabeth Jones, badass truth teller? I thought about it. Now I live my life. I focus on my kids, my career, the people who actually care about me. I stop waiting for my father's approval because I finally understand I'm never going to get it. And more importantly, I don't need it. That's my girl, Rachel said, clinking her glass against mine. 4 weeks after the wedding, life started to feel normal again. The constant buzzing of my phone had stopped. The family drama had died down. Aunt Linda and I had begun talking regularly, rebuilding a relationship that my father had tried to destroy. Uncle Tom invited me and the kids to Thanksgiving at his house in Eugene, and for the first time in years, I was actually looking forward to a holiday. The kids were thriving. Maya had stopped asking about her grandfather, accepting my explanation that sometimes adults have disagreements and need space. Tyler had never really known my father anyway. He'd seen him maybe 6 times in his entire life, always in tense, uncomfortable settings. I was sleeping better, eating better, smiling more. The constant anxiety that had shadowed me for years, the worry about what Dad thought, whether I measured up, if I was being a good enough daughter, was gone. I hadn't realized how much energy I'd been spending on trying to earn love from someone who was never going to give it. But the story wasn't quite over yet. Because 5 weeks after the wedding, something happened that I never could have anticipated. Something that would change everything one final time. It was December 20th, 5 weeks after Mitchell's wedding, when Grandma Rose's caregiver called me. My heart dropped the moment I saw the retirement home's number on my screen. Miss Jones? This is Patricia from Golden Years. Your grandmother asked me to call you. She's okay, but she'd like to see you as soon as possible. She says it's important. I arranged for Rachel to watch the kids and drove the 5 hours to Sacramento that same afternoon. My mind raced the entire drive. Was Grandma Rose sick? Dying? Has something happened to Dad? When I arrived at her room, she was sitting in her favorite armchair by the window, looking remarkably alert for someone who'd just turned 92. But her expression was serious, determined. Elizabeth, baby girl, thank you for coming so quickly. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit down. We need to talk about your father. I sat, bracing myself. What about him? After that disaster of a wedding, I did some thinking. Your mother, my daughter, she left you something. A trust fund she set up before she died. Your father has been managing it since she passed, and it was supposed to be released to you when you turned 35. That was last year, Elizabeth. My stomach dropped. What? I never knew about any trust fund. Exactly, because Richard never told you. I've been going through your mother's paperwork. I had copies of everything. She left you $68,000. It was meant to help you build a better life, maybe buy a house, provide security for you and your children. Richard was supposed to transfer it to you on your 35th birthday. He didn't. He kept it. The room spun. $68,000. Money my mother had carefully saved and protected for me. Money that could have changed everything for me and my kids. Money my father had stolen. Why? My voice came out as a whisper. Why would he do that? Control, sweetheart. As long as you were struggling, you were dependent on his goodwill. You were the daughter who needed saving, who'd made poor choices. If you had that money, you might become independent, successful. You might not need him anymore. And Richard always needs to be needed, to be the center of everything. Tears burned my eyes. All those years of scraping by, working double shifts, choosing between fixing my car and buying Maya new shoes. All those nights lying awake worried about bills. And the whole time, there was money. My mother's money, meant for me. I've already contacted my attorney, Grandma Rose continued. We're filing paperwork to force Richard to release the funds plus interest. He can't hide this anymore. The trust was ironclad. Your mother made sure of that. She knew Richard might try something like this, so she named me as a backup trustee with authority to intervene. I should have checked on it sooner, but I trusted him. That was my mistake, and I'm sorry. Grandma, you have nothing to be sorry for. This is all on him. Yes, it is. And he's going to face the consequences. My attorney says we have an airtight case. Richard will have to release the money, and there may be additional penalties for the delay. But Elizabeth, there's more you should know. I'm changing my will. I looked up, surprised. I'm leaving everything to you, Linda, Tom, and your cousins. Richard gets nothing. Neither does Mitchell, not unless he makes a sincere effort to repair his relationship with you. What your father did at that wedding, and what I've learned about the trust fund, showed me exactly who he is. Your mother deserved better, and so do you. Grandma, don't argue with me. I may be old, but I know my own mind. Family isn't just blood, it's how you treat people. Richard stopped being family the day he treated you like an inconvenience. I spent that night in a hotel near the retirement home, my mind reeling. The next morning, Grandma Rose's attorney called me. The paperwork was in motion. My father had been served with legal notice. The trust fund would be released within 60 days. 2 hours later, Mitchell called from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Liz, it's me. Don't hang up. His voice was strained. Dad just told me about the trust fund, about what he did. I had no idea, I swear. God, Elizabeth, I don't even know what to say. There's nothing to say, Mitchell. He stole from me, from his own daughter. Money Mom wanted me to have. I know. Amanda and I have been talking. A lot. She's been pointing out things I've been too blind or too comfortable to see. About how Dad treats you. About how I've enabled it by staying silent. She's right. I've been a terrible brother. I waited, saying nothing. I can't undo the past. I can't take back all the times I should have stood up for you and didn't, but I want to try to do better. If you'll let me. No expectations, no pressure. Just if you ever want to talk, or if Maya and Tyler want to know their uncle, I'm here. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. His voice cracked on the last word. Mitchell, who never showed emotion, who prided himself on being controlled and professional, was crying. I need time, I said quietly. A lot of time. Maybe someday we can rebuild something. But Mitchell, it has to be real. No more going along with Dad's narratives. No more silence when he tears me down. If you want to be my brother, you have to actually be my brother. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. 3 days before Christmas, I received a certified check for $76,800, the original trust amount plus accumulated interest. I stared at it for a long time, thinking about my mother, about how she'd planned for my future even knowing she wouldn't be there to see it, about how she'd tried to protect me from my father's control. That money changed everything. I put a down payment on a modest 3-bedroom house with a backyard for the kids. I paid off my car. I set up college funds for Maya and Tyler. I even took the kids on their first real vacation a week at Disneyland, where Tyler got to meet every character and Maya rode every roller coaster twice. But more than the money, I had something else. Freedom. Real freedom. Not just from my father's control, but from the shame and self-doubt he'd spent years cultivating in me. It was enough. I'd always been enough. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and it was good. 6 months after the wedding, we celebrated Maya's 9th birthday in our new backyard. Aunt Linda came, Uncle Tom and his family, my cousins, Rachel and her husband, my coworkers who'd become friends. Even Sarah showed up with a genuine apology and a beautiful present for Maya. As I watched Maya blow out her candles, surrounded by people who actually loved and supported us, I realized something. My father's rejection, painful as it was, had given me an unexpected gift. It forced me to see the truth clearly. It has pushed me to stand up for myself, and it showed me who my real family was, not the people who shared my blood, but the people who showed up, who celebrated with me, who held me when I cried. My father never apologized. He never acknowledged what he'd done. From what I heard through the family grapevine, he told everyone I was suing him for money I wasn't entitled to, that I was vindictive and greedy. Some people believed him. Most didn't. Mitchell and I exchanged occasional texts. Tentative, careful conversations about safe topics. He sent birthday cards to the kids. It wasn't much, but it was something. Amanda reached out more regularly, and I found myself actually liking her. Maybe someday Mitchell and I would find our way back to something resembling a brotherly relationship. Maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I'd be okay. A year after the wedding, Rachel and I were sitting on my new porch, watching the kids play in the yard. Tyler was teaching Maya's friend how to throw a football. Maya was practicing cartwheels on the grass. "So," Rachel said, sipping her wine, "was it worth it? The email, the drama, all of it?" I thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty, but also the liberation, the discovery of the trust fund, the house, the peace. The kids were laughing in the yard we owned. The absence of constant anxiety about whether I was good enough for people who were never going to think I was. "Yes," I said. "Absolutely yes." My father wanted me to stay small, to keep accepting crumbs, to be grateful for whatever scraps of affection he threw my way. That email, as messy and dramatic as it was, broke that pattern. It said, "I matter, my truth matters, and I refuse to be erased. Plus, you got a house out of it," Rachel grinned. "Plus, I got a house out of it," I agreed, laughing. That night, after everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, I stood in my kitchen, in my house, and thought about how far I'd come. From that devastating text message to this moment of peace. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. But it had been necessary. Sometimes you have to burn bridges to stop yourself from crossing back over them. Sometimes you have to speak uncomfortable truths to people who don't want to hear them. Sometimes you have to choose yourself, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. My father had texted me not to come to the wedding because my kids and I made things awkward. He was right about one thing. We did make things awkward. We made it awkward for him to pretend his family was perfect. We made it awkward for him to maintain his image. We made it awkward by simply existing as proof that life doesn't always follow the script wealthy people write for themselves. But I wasn't awkward. I was real. And in the end, that was exactly what my father couldn't handle. His loss, not mine. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.